Welcome to Ilkley on a sunny and very mild Thursday morning. The building that we're seeing there is now called the sort of Troutbeck Care Home, but it gained some notoriety in 1967 when the Jimi Hendrix Experience played Ilkley, and supposedly there were lots of fun-loving beat kids who packed the place out, and a 250 capacity ballroom. There were some 700 or 800 all waiting to hear what this sensational psychedelic band was all about. Ilkley has a greater claim to history than just the Troutbeck in Hendrix gig, of course. The town saw a huge expansion in the Victorian 19th century when the benefits of taking the waters became quite popular, and it grew as a spa town with a reputation alongside Harrogate and Matlock, I assume. Charles Darwin came here to take the waters sometime in the 1850s, I think. Its history goes back, obviously, even further than that. The Romans were in town. There was a major Roman fort guarding one of the highways in the 1st century. And even further back, there are signs of Bronze Age and Stone Age inhabitants. Hopefully on this little walk, I'll take in a few of those historic strata that I've spoken about. It's extremely warm for December, 10 Celsius, and hardly a breath of wind. So, quite a surprise. I'm not complaining though. I'm walking now on a metalled path to what I assume is a man-made lake or tarn. We'll have a quick look at that, and then I'll adjust the clothing. Here we are. Ilkley Town. Ilkley Moor itself is referred to as Rombalds Moor on many maps, the name originating with a giant called Rombalds from pre-modern times, who was by all accounts quite an aggressive fellow. He had an equally aggressive and hot-tempered wife, of course, because there is a legend that one day he'd upset her, and he took flight across the moors, and she followed in hot pursuit with an apron full of stones, which she proceeded to throw at him at regular intervals. And he made his way to what we now call the Cow and Calf Rocks, and bumped into the main crag with such speed and ferocity that he broke off the calf from the cow. And if we look there, that's the calf stone, and this major crag here will be the cow. The land of giants. The giantess, frustrated dropped her stones somewhere on the moor up there, where we'll be heading on those slabs. But yeah, it's turned into a beautiful day. Most surprising. I invested £9 in a day return rail ticket for this. Just about paid for itself, I think, so far. The railway came to Ilkley during that time that I mentioned in its Spartown glory, and it was gradually extended from Ilkley towards Addingham and Bolton Abbey, and later there was an extension built from Bolton Abbey to Skipton. But like everything else in the railway world, a series of cuts in the 50s and 60s resulted in the line ending at Ilkley. And as far as Addingham, they've built a new bypass road on the railway there. So if you want to go beyond Ilkley now, you have to either walk or take a bus. So just behind me was the 12 Apostle Stones. It's a stone circle which claims to have Bronze Age origins. I think it's more likely that there was some kind of Bronze Age stone monument on that site, and the Victorians have enhanced it slightly. They were rather fond of enhancing history and sort of adding to mythos. But nevertheless, it's an atmospheric place with that sort of central altar, perhaps. It would be a good lunch spot, I suppose, but haven't been walking long enough for that. I make it 12:35. Oops, 12:35, and it's time to cross onto the central part of the moor. Let's have a quick look around. When I get to around this point, you might be able to make out the white golf balls on the moor behind. That'll be the early warning radar station on Blubberhouse Moor. The Ordnance Survey trig point, which marks, I think, the highest point on the moor. 402 metres, it's around 1300 feet. Not very high, but there's a lot of ground at this kind of height. You can see I'm walking on a erosion control measure using stone slabs. Popularity of Ilkley Moor is its downfall when it comes to erosion. The weather is just changing slightly. There's cloud and a little bit of dampness moving in, I would think, from the west or the northwest. But still not a bad morning. The moor is associated, of course, with the famous song on Ilkley Moor, Baht, which is a kind of unofficial anthem for the county of Yorkshire. The old Yorkshire TV signature tune, the ident, was based on those opening notes. Dee 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 dee. And there's a throwback to the 70s and 80s. It's an interesting song too. The music is believed to be at least 18th century, some kind of hymn. The lyrics are slightly more recent, believed to be some kind of 19th century effort. And it's thought that they were written by a Halifax choral society enjoying a trip to Ilkley, and they decided to have a little bit of fun and cooked up the lyrics. The lyrics begin quite innocently, if you like, with a in dialect, "Where hast thou been since I saw thee on Ilkley Moor, Baht." So they're just asking some young chap where he's been since they last saw him, and he's been on Ilkley Moor without his hat, and it turns out that he's been courting Mary Jane without his hat. But then the lyrics take an interesting twist, because the chorus warns him that he's going to catch his death of cold and die on the moor, and then the worms will eat him when he's been buried, and then in the cycle of life, ducks will eat the worms and the choral society will eat the ducks. And then there's an oddly macabre line saying that we will have eaten you. That's a hint of cannibalistic Eucharist on Ilkley Moor. And yes, I'm not going to sing it. I'm sure you all know it by now. Good tune though. Just having a quick stop at the Thimblestones. Interesting weather shapen gritstone. Little outcrop. If I can just raise, you can see them on both sides of the dividing wall. I'm leaving behind Whetstone Gate. That's the one sort of major road. It's actually called Keighley Road, but it's a metal road on one side and then a permissible track or bridleway on the other. I've been over there a few times on a mountain bike, and it's yeah, good fun down to Ilkley. Not too rough at all, nice and fast. I'm heading now onto a bit of boggier ground in the direction of some rock formations called East Buckstones and West Buckstones. I fear that the best of the day's weather might be behind us. We'll see. lost a few hundred feet of height in that little time warp sequence. Hope that turns out. I'm on one of the, I think they call it the Dales Highway. It's a bridleway at what you'd call low to medium level. You can see, if I just hopefully the kind of shelf that I'm moving along. And I mentioned a few times at the beginning of the video about the prehistory, or I mentioned the Romans, but also the Bronze Age and Stone Age heritage of Ilkley Moor. And soon we'll be coming to a Bronze Age, I think they estimate 500 BC or something. It's stone with a definite Celtic carving. They call it the Swastika Stone, and you'll see soon, I'll just fill the time in until we get there, they have it behind metal railings to stop people walking on it and damaging it and so on. But it's a good 500 years before the Romans got here. Let's have a look. Almost there. And here, if you can see under the lichen through the bars, you can see the swastika carving. And yeah, we associate the swastika with Celtic or even Indo-European cultures, going back an awful long way. Well, I did promise a cup and ring marking earlier, and just behind me is the one that I thought was a surefire hit. It's a stone with cup and ring markings, but I've bumped into someone who's changed into a white robe, and they're singing and what looks to be praying. So whether it's some kind of neo-pagan ceremony or something, I'm not sure, but I think it would be a little bit rude or indiscreet to sort of disturb them to get a photograph of the cup and ring stones. You might be able to hear them actually singing and chanting in the background. So I'll have to go back on that promise of cup and ring stones for the time being. I'm heading up towards White Wells now. You might be able to see behind me a white robe just in the trees behind where that stone. Anyway, better not disturb a church service. Maybe it's some kind of midwinter thing, a little bit early by our calendar, 16th of December, but I'm not sure. Anyway, on we go. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned the Victorian fashion for taking in the waters and the spa nature of Ilkley's growth. Most of those retreats have gone, or they've been repurposed. I showed the one with the blue plaque and the Darwin connection. This one, which is a little bit out of town, is known as White Wells, and it was the site of a Victorian retreat for taking the waters. Let's go past these whitewashed walls. Into the little cobbled gallery here. Private residence now, but as it says there, entrance to bathhouse. we have a little pan back over the valley, get an idea of the location of this place. We're looking there in the brighter direction to the upper part of Wharfdale towards Simon Seat, Burnsall and so on. What we know as the sort of highlands of Wharfdale. And then there's Ilkley itself. And as we saw in an earlier pan, that's the roughly direction where we set off, heading to Burley and Wharfdale, Otley. So I have maybe a half, 3/4 of a mile to get back to the railway station. That's essentially through town. I'll be passing the paddling pool soon. That sort of marks the beginning of town for me. And I think I have a train in about half an hour, so comfortable. And I think this is as good a point as any to sign off for this bonus Ilkley Moor Bar tap walk. See you next time.